Hello there, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome. So today I've actually got my hands here on a copy of Up the Nile. Now this is a book for wargame rules for fighting battles in the Sudan 1883 to 1885. Now, to be honest, what first struck me about this book here then is just how obscure the actual theatre is. I mean, how many of you guys out there, even if you have a very a very keen interest in history, how many of you have actually taken a look at the fighting of the Sudan? How many of you actually thought, you know what, I'm going to actually play a game about fighting of the Sudan in the years 1883 to 1885? I'm going to be honest, I've never thought of that. The only time I've probably come close to that is in Victoria 2, and yeah, that's just completely overwritten. And just flies by, doesn't it, that sort of time. But you know what, this is actually really quite interesting. I did receive this for a review, which is actually quite nice, very lovely of them. It does come from, I believe it is Cavalier Press. Yep, there we go, Cavalier Books. Really quite nice there, published by Partisan Press. But to be honest, I quite like this. It is the first time I've really taken a look at anything like this, but I'm really quite impressed. Really quite impressed by what the quality of the book is like so far. So very much looking forward to showing it off now. So I hope you guys are ready. So we'll go ahead and take a look through this in just a moment. So there we go. So we have Up the Nile, War Game Rules for Fighting Battles in the Sudan, 1883 to 1885. Now, to be honest, I'm quite impressed by the actual images here. They're very nice. The colours are really very different. But this is going to be something that's rather intriguing, because in all honesty, I reckon you could have a very asymmetric sort of warfare here. So here we go, we have War Game Rules. So let's take a look then. Now, Up the Nile is going to be quite an interesting game, I can imagine. I'm not entirely sure how it plays out as of yet. I've not yet been able to have the chance to try the game out. Hopefully I'll be able to do that in the future, actually. That is going to be the plan here. So as you can see, we do have introduction, we do have the game, what is required, unit bases, getting started, attrition, basic forces, formations, the turn sequence, movement, fire and melee sequence reminder, additional rules for expanding the game, solo play, which is quite interesting actually, being able to play the game solo. I don't know how that'd work, but it'd be quite interesting. And we do have two scenarios in here then. So we do have the fight for Donovan's Zariba, and we have Search and Destroy. We have the Up the Nile quick reference sheet as well here, over on page 45. Let's go through the book then, shall we? So we do have the introduction over here. So there we go. Hopefully you guys will be able to read this in just a second. I'll just adjust the focus. Apologies once again. So, as we can see here then, Up the Nile, zoom this in a little bit more then. So, Up the Nile is a set of wargame rules for fighting the Mahadis Wars in Sudan. They have been developed to allow players to game this fascinating conflict with a set of rules that are quick to learn and fun to play. The rules have easily understood and plausible mechanisms reflecting the tactics, strength and weaknesses of the combatants, resulting in the games that are never predictable but always a challenge. So very good here then. So although primarily set during the early British intervention in the Sudan, these rules can be used for later campaigns and the earlier Anglo-Egyptian War of 1882. The colonial period itself lends itself well to solo play, and this is especially true for the Sudan. A section of the rules have been dedicated to cover this alternate aspect of the gaming, with Mahadis forces controlled by the rules. Two scenarios are included, which at first glance may seem pretty straightforward for the British. However, do not be deceived. During playtesting, they have proven to be anything but, with honours going to both sides and with more than one British square coming a cropper. So that's actually really quite good there. I'm very much looking forward to this. And this is it. So you have something here where the British aren't exactly guaranteed to win a straight-up battle, which is really quite interesting here. So let's see. Apologies about this, just trying to get the camera adjusted. The actual tripod I'm using here does like to move about, so there we go. Terrific. Okay, so we'll take a look over here then. But although the book it's not the largest book, it's not the smallest book either, but it's in full colour, which is very nice, and we do have some nice game images over here. I do like art, but I think potentially the best case is when you actually have, well, really images of the game itself. So as we can see over here then, so let's take a look then, shall we? Now let's see. So we do have unit bases. Okay then. So we can see then Imperial Egyptian Infantry is 50 by 50mm, Imperial Egyptian Cavalry 50 by 50mm. Now if you guys are familiar with Field of Glory, I can imagine you probably get on with this quite well here. Now, unit sizes. So, okay. Now what we need here to play Up the Nile, we need 3 d6s, we need 2 d10s, And we need a 6-sided mini dice. 1 per unit command figure and senior commander figure. So in reality, you don't need that much there to play the game, which is really quite nice. Makes for very easy playing here, very easy gaming. So attrition sounds like a very interesting mechanic. The core element of Up the Nile is the use of attrition. All units and senior commanders have an attrition value reflecting their training and experience. A unit's attrition value indicates its ability to function on the battlefield and continue to fight, when a command's attrition value represents his ability to command and control and influence his troops during the battle. Depletion of units' attrition will occur while it's under enemy fire or in melee, and represents casualties rates, ammunition expenditure, and the general trauma, fear, and confusion of surrounding the enemy, or surrounding the unit while engaged with the enemy. So that's quite good, actually. I do like that, and it does make sense, actually, considering the fact that, well, in reality, the natives here are going to be significantly more, well, they're going to be used to the actual environment here. I mean, these men might potentially have some training from the environment, but I can't imagine it's quite an easy feat of this sort of, well, this sort of near turn of a century. Okay. Let's go over this part over here then. So, again, apologies about the actual video. Trying to do my best to improve this as we go on in the future. But as you guys can see over here then, so we have different ratings. So we have incompetent, so you can see we have 1 attrition, 2 to 3 is average, 4 to 5 is professional, and we do have 6, which is a Victorian hero, and he would have 6 attrition. We do have the Mahadis, so we have 1 to 4 is good with 3 attrition, and we have 5 to 6, which is natural leader with 5 attrition. So you can actually see here then, for the actual British and Egyptian forces, it does seem like the actual quality does very much vary. As you can see here then, average is 2 to 3 with only 2 attrition. So the Mahadis forces on 1 to 4 do have more attrition than the vast majority, well, potentially about 50% of the actual British/Egyptian forces, which is quite interesting actually. It's only really the professionals that have 4 attrition, which is actually still beaten by the natural leaders and the Mahadis, but the Victorian hero is definitely the baller here, I suppose you could say, with 6 attrition. And to be honest, that's really quite intriguing. And let's take a look over here then. So we do have, yeah, some pictures of some nice, these look to be Marines perhaps actually. Now, I'm not entirely sure what nation they come from, but they definitely look like Marines. But very good so far. So let's see here then. In order to allocate attrition to the unit, the commander must join the unit for a complete turn. So that's interesting then. So it seems like your commanders can potentially give attrition to the unit, which is really quite interesting. So in reality, it's almost as if you are buffing your units over here, which could make the difference in the actual game here then. I think that goes without a doubt there. So let's take a look over here then. Zoom back out once more. Try and go for the book then, shall we? We have basic forces, 1 senior commander, 4 infantry units of 4 bases, 1 unit may be a naval brigade, 1 cavalry unit of 4 bases, 1 field gun or machine gun. And then for the Mahadis, we do have 1 leader, 2 Bajar warriors, 2 Ansar foot, Mahadis horse times 2, 1 field gun. So that's interesting then. So even though you are technically outgunned, you do still have access to weaponry. For example, we can see here that the Mahadis forces do actually have rifles, which is rather interesting. And we have formations over here. So this is how they function, how they move, which is very good. Forming formations, their impact, which is very good there. So I'm going to do here then is place this on manual focus, and then I'm not going to get in the way. Right, so we do have the effects of melee, melee failure, which is very interesting over here. The turn sequence. Okay, so the turn sequence of Up Nile. So we have 1 to 8. So own commander movement, declare own firing, enemy test reaction to be under fire, enemy implement under fire reaction failures, melee. Enemy test reaction to being in melee, and enemy implement melee failures. Which is interesting then. So it looks like each turn is 8 movements, well, a series of 8 movements, I suppose you could call it. 8 sequential moves that you have to carry out on each side. So to be honest, there's not too much there. Quite easy. Movement, firing, melee, reactions, pretty much something like that. We have movements over here then, so we can see how far we're able to move in. So it looks as though, let's see here then. Okay. Yeah, let's zoom in there a little bit. So we can see here then that the British Egyptian, so infantry movement in column is 6 inches. The Bajar have 10, charge 15, infantry line, infantry square, there's 3 inches compared to 12 inches of the cavalry column. The cavalry line is 10 plus 1d6 charge. camels 10. So it looks like the British and the Egyptian forces definitely suffer from not being as mobile as the Mahdi's forces over here. So it seems like they're very much about that mobility, which is rather intriguing. We do have movement modifiers and notes over here then, so I'll let you guys take a look at that if you'd like to. Obviously you can pause the video right there. So let's take a look over here then. So obviously firing is going to be quite interesting, so we do have firing over here then. Right, in up the Nile, firing is directed straight ahead at all times. There are no firing arcs. The correct deployment to face a given threat is crucial. So that's actually quite good then. So it seems over here then, so we do have ranges. So let's take a look over here at these ranges then. So we do have the rifle there. So 12 inches at short range, 12 inches is short range, 24 is medium, 36 is long, carbine, 6, 12 and 18, MGs 12, 24 and 36. So yeah, about the same there as the rifle. We do have the screw gun, 16, 32, 48, field gun, 18, 36 and 60. Which is quite interesting actually. So you can see here then, so check for volleys. So to be honest, it very much does seem... I'm not going to say Napoleonic, it's some years past the Napoleonic era really, isn't it? But it does have that sort of feel, isn't it? I mean, to be honest, you have basically volley fire here, which is actually really kind of cool. I like that. I like the fact that it keeps it quite simple. The fact is, like, let's say for example over here then, so we have the British forces over here, so only this unit would be able to fire. These units over here don't have anything to fire at because they don't have anything immediately in front of them. So that's actually really quite interesting. So it looks as though as the Mahdi's forces, you are definitely looking towards trying to outflank the British over here, which is really quite good. Now, as far as it goes, it looks as if it displays the Mahdi's forces as being basically independent. I'm not entirely sure, as I've not had a terrible amount of time to go through the book over here. But that looks quite interesting. I mean, if they are individually based and the British have to go into formations, then you can definitely see where having that additional manoeuvrability is very nice. I mean, these models are really quite nice over here then. Melee. Yeah, but it looks like they're potentially individually based. That's quite good, man. So we do actually have some modifiers over here, and I'd love some modifiers. So melee modifiers. Fight while in a square, defending an obstacle, superior number of bases in own. It reminds me a bit of Black Powder so far, actually, and potentially some other games. I'm sort of getting a Black Powder feel, sort of getting like a Field of Glory sort of feel to it, really. If you guys have any familiarity with these sorts of games, do let me know what it reminds you of, because I'm getting that sort of vibe from it. So there we go. Hardest failure. Egyptian failures and British failures over here. So you can see whether the attrition really does come in quite quite prevalent there. And for example, if you are advancing and you lose 2 attrition. If you're stationary, you lose 2 attrition and you fall back 4 inches and become disorganized. I mean, this is when it comes down to reminding me of Field of Glory, it's a disorganization actually, which is quite interesting. So square, second consecutive failure. Okay, so if we're in a square and we fail twice, we lose 3 attrition and we're broken. If we suffer a failure 3 times, we lose 3 attrition and we collapse, which is quite interesting there. Okay. Let's see over here then. So we do have some special rules, which is quite interesting. Yep, additional rules for expanding the game. So we have Fanatics over here. Look at that. That is such a nice image there. Really well painted. The Mahdi's can class one of their units as Fanatics in the basic setup, or... for larger games, they cannot. They ignore. Cannot advance with only 1 attrition rule when falling under fire. When failing under fire or melee tests, they occur attrition. Okay, so that's quite interesting then. So basically, they ignore the normal rules and they will keep on advancing, which is really quite good there. Okay, characters over here. That's cool. So we can have Imans. We actually do have some interesting characters over here then. So let's take a look at these characters then, shall we? So we have Reverend Brimstone. His booming voice can be heard above the dinner battle, reciting the palms and encouraging the men. Apply a -10 modifier to all friendly troops within 12 inches. We have Bertie Burlington, Lady Constance. And we do have from the Mahdi's, we have an Imam over here, which is quite good. We have the Holy Standard, the Camel Gun. That's cool. We have Fakir. I'm liking this so far, you know what, guys. I think this is something that I probably would actually play myself. It's one of those things, isn't it? Like, sometimes you find games you think, alright, I'll give it a go. Might give it a go once or twice, something of that sort of nature. But this, to be honest, it's a nice book. It's really quite small, compact. but it's all colour, you have some terrific images in here, and the actual diagrams are really quite good, to be honest. But I would probably actually give this a go. I think this could be really quite fun. The fact you do have solo play as an option is really quite interesting. Because in all honesty, you could actually learn to play the game by playing against yourself. So we do have a first scenario over here, the fight for Donovan's Zariba. The second scenario over here, which is Search and Destroy. There we go. So to be honest, we do have just some other advertisements over here, some other titles from Partisan Press. Looking very nice, actually. Lots of different eras of gameplay there for you to take a look at. And we have a quick reference chart over here. Love quick reference charts, really very handy. So all in all, what do I think of the book so far? I think the of the Nile rulebook, it's really remarkably interesting. I think this is the thing, it's like I've not had any sort of experience of this sort of era of gameplay. I've not been able to actually use the book as of yet. I would have to buy some miniatures to be able to use it. But to be honest, I could probably use some stand-ins, but it's really quite interesting. I think having that difference there between the British and the Egyptian forces in how they move, how they fire, and the Mahadis is really quite interesting. So I think if you guys are looking for a sort of game that is really out there in just the terms of the historical setting, then I'd say definitely Up the Nile is a worthwhile contender to take a look at. Very good so far. Actually quite looking forward to playing it myself. I think it'd be really quite good. I think it'd be a lot of fun, and yeah, the price isn't too bad there. And of course you can pick this up once again from... There we go, if you head over to Cavalier Books, this is where you can pick it up from. Worthwhile, and plenty of other content to take a look at as well. So all in all, very nice. Really quite compact. I mean, how many pages do we have here then? So we have a total of, let's see... Yeah, about 43 pages, something like that. 43, 44 pages in total. Overall, very nice. Quite nice quality. It's not going to break down on you. Very nice. So, until next time, guys, do let me know what you think down below. And goodbye for now. See you all in the very near future. See you later, guys.